I think he asked Big Bill Brunzi. He says, Big Bill, that blues music you play, you call that folk music? And Big Bill says, well, I've never heard no horses sing none of it. I told you not to mention wild folk dancing.
Woke up this morning, looked out my door. I could tell my milk cow, could tell by the way she looked. If you see my milk cow, please send her on home. I ain't had no milk and butter since my milk cow been gone. You gotta treat me right, day by day. Get out your little prayer book, get down on your knees and pray, 'cause you're gonna need my help someday. Yes, you're going to be sorry that you treated me this way. Play that steel guitar, George. Yeah. That sun look good going down. I said, well, good evening, don't that sun look good going down? And don't your house look lonesome when your lover ain't around? Well, I tried everything, mama, to get along with you. And now I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop my crying. I'm gonna leave you alone. If you don't think I'm leaving, mama, count the days I'm gone. 'Cause you're gonna need my help someday. Yes, you're going to be sorry that you treated me. And yes, you're going to be sorry that you treated me. You're going to be sorry that you treated me this way.
Yes, sir, here we are on Horses Sing None of It, and we're playing some blues for you today, folks. This is Lou Gelfond my co-host.
Hey there,
I'm Ralph Litwin, and our guest today is George Jr.
Very nice
George.
to be here. Well,
And George is currently residing in New York City, and he's a
big rotten
professional professional blues singer. And George, where do you originally come from, though?
I was raised in Anniston, Alabama, and left there when I was about 16. My father, he decided I need to pay attention to something besides guitars and cars and women. So he sent me off to school up east, and I've been here off and on for about 10 years.
Paying attention to cars and guitars.
Well, you're trying to pay attention to more guitars than women, but it's difficult, you know.
So George, tell us what kind of influences do you have musically?
Well, let's see. The story does continue, I guess. We got into a band, a bunch of schoolmates and myself, playing primarily Southern music. Because when I was still sort of rebellious of being, you know, put up in the North. But so we played all kind of Southern rock. I was raised on the Allman Brothers and stuff like that. And I got to find out that the root of what they were doing was all in the blues. And so as time went on, we started working in New York City. And I got more and more interested into the roots music and, you know, where it all came from, and specifically the guys that were still alive. And had a couple of bands. One of them was called the George Dickel Band, named after the whiskey. And then the next one was called Mojo Bone, and I fronted both those bands. And we had a good time. But eventually I got to where I really wanted to learn blues, and went to Chicago. Left here and went out and sort of did a pilgrimage in the blues bars and stuff like that. And to get to the point, the influences that are still alive and that have taught me a hell of a lot are a couple of people you probably have heard of. Pinetop Perkins. He is one of the greatest Chicago blues piano players, live or dead, but he's walking around at 76. And he took me in Chicago, and so I lived with him for a little bit in the spring of '85. And then I got a pretty good command on what the old stuff was about. Let's see, then went to Europe for a little bit and played the streets over there. I heard you tell me that you went to Europe recently, I guess, over to France. I lived in Paris for just a little bit. I had a friend over there. So anyway, then I came back and I started to get into New Orleans music. And the other influence, who's also walking around, thank goodness, is Mr. Charles Otis. They call him Honey Boy. He is he's about he's in his late 50s, early 60s, I think. And he taught me about the New Orleans sound, the horn-oriented stuff, and then the real funky stuff that you'll hear nowadays with the Neville Brothers and bands like that. It's doing quite well. But as far as, you know, influences, I mean, there's millions of them. I mean, as far as guitar, the Three Kings, I think, are the great, you know, guitar players, B.B., Freddie, and Albert King. But the guys that are here, Pinetop and Charles, have taught me a hell of a lot, and I'm really grateful to them. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be able to work with musicians of that stature. And matter of fact, if you want me to keep talking.
Well, why don't you play us something of what you're talking about?
Okay, that's a good idea. Let's quit talking and play something. All right, this I'll play one of Pinetop's songs. So let's see. Tell me how much more longer has your daddy got to wait on you? Tell me how much more longer has your daddy got to wait on you? You know I love you, baby. You know my take my rest. Laying down last night and I tried to take my rest. My mind got to wandering like two wild geese in the west. Oh, how long? Much more long, how long? How long? Much more long, how long? How long, pretty baby, gonna do your daddy wrong? How long, pretty baby, gonna do your daddy wrong? That's the old, old style chunka Chicago rhythm. That's was real embedded into my mind by people like Pine Top, because Pine Top played with Muddy Water for 12 years, and the fact is he's one of the greatest piano players alive, but his hands think 12-bar blues, and it's just to get the, that's very important to learn to play the groove, and you can be fancy when it's time to be fancy, but the important thing I learned from Top is to really play the groove.
Well, you get into another groove too, don't you? Something with records, you've got yourself a company that you have?
Yeah, well, sure. Let's talk about that a second if you want. The second band I mentioned, Mojo Bone, we put out a record in '84, and we created our own little record company. About that time, independent recording was starting to be a reality for everybody, and it was possible. The costs were down enough, and the knowledge was common enough to be able to put out your own record. So we started a little label called Pipeliner Records, and we put this record out on Mojo Bone, and we pressed about 1,000 copies, sold about half of them, gave the other half away.
That's normal.
Yeah. Hey man, I got a record. But anyway, the latest thing we've done is I went out to California, and I scared up a budget, and we've recorded a record called George Jr. and His Elders, and it features Pine Top and Charles.
Great.
And I wrote 3 of the tunes. 3 of them are New Orleans.
Did you go to them, or
tunes.
did they go to you? Did you go to them to record, or did they come to where you were at to record these?
They came to California,
California.
but you got to pay for them to come to California.
Of course.
They didn't hitchhike. But anyway, we have been shopping the thing. I got some management while I was out there, which was very nice. Mr. Denny Bruce manages me. He has a nice track record in blues. He managed the Fabulous Thunderbirds for a while, and so we've struck up a little partnership. And so Denny is looking for a deal. So A&M and all you people out there, you know where to find me.
Well, good luck with that. I understand you're also playing in a band with some of the local fellas, Andy Gessling, who we had on the show, and Tim from the Blue Sparks also.
Right. I'm very fortunate to be able to work with those guys these days. They've come off the road with that project. And I've got a thing now going in the city, New Jersey, and a little bit in upstate New York called George Jr. and the Coolerators. It's a 5-piece band, all of us young guys, no legends in the band or anything. And it does some of the tunes off the George Jr. and His Elders album, but it's got a little bit more, I don't know what you'd call it, not quite mainstream, but it's less traditional, and it's a little bit livelier, and it's quite unique. The musicians you were speaking of, Andy and Tim, are just fantastic musicians, and for heaven's sakes, they've stood next to each other on a bandstand for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so their minds just think alike. It's great. And so they're playing electric fiddle and saxophone. And so we do a lot of the New Orleans horn parts with them.
Sounds great.
Yes, it's a good deal. Sure is.
Well,
sure is.
We've got a little clip from your apartment,
residence.
the Chelsea Hotel. A friend we have in common, Laura Anderson.
She works at Pipeliner. She's doing very well. And
she took my camera in to visit George, and so we're going to cut away and take a little visit to George in New York City.
Good evening. My name's George Jr. Welcome to my home. Live here in New York City. I was raised in Alabama and play the blues. I'd like to speak to you tonight a little bit about the blues, about where I live. I'm sure it's going to come out on this TV segment. I live in the Chelsea Hotel. Chelsea Hotel is, I got a lot of myths about it, but I'd like to clear up a couple of them. It's to those of us that live here is a building, nothing more, nothing less. You don't have to be famous to live here, and by no means are you famous if you do live here. It's a place, and you make what you want out of the space that you get. It's fun. There are a lot of artists here, a lot of musicians of all different sorts, actors and whatnot. But this is my home in the Chelsea, 23rd Street. Take a look around. Welcome. To my kitchen / recording studio. I rigged it up where I could cook some red beans and rice and stuff like that I like to cook. New Orleans recipes, gumbo and what have you, and work my 4-track recorder at the same time. This is where I write most of my material. Let's see what I can do for you here. I've been all day working. Playing blues all night long. All day working. Playing blues all night long. way I show. Make my money with the sound. My night so long.
Okay, George.
All right, well, we're back now, and we just want to tell you, if you're a musician or performer of any kind out there, your ethnicity or your age doesn't matter. We'd like to have you as a guest here in the studio. And George now is going to talk a little bit about this kind of music and then give us one of his original tunes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll turn the floor over to you, George.
Well, as you saw on the cut, a little studio I have there, studio kitchen. It's a little small space, and I've been writing tunes in the Delta blues style. And one of the biggest points I'd like to make and just make very clear about the blues. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions that the blues is played, can truly be played only by black folks and only by old black folks, and that if you're white and you know, you drive a station wagon or something, you're not allowed to play the blues. If you go on and ask the old black folks, which I have done, blues is about nothing but just telling the truth, and then everybody around can tell the truth. So I used to, you know, kind of follow the old, you know, yeah, I've got to look funky and, you know, all that kind of thing, but I got that behind me. Anyway, this is a song. It's in a, you know, more modern vein as far as the lyrical content. I mean, I'm talking about VCRs and everything, but it doesn't talk about my woman left me and I'm drinking too much either, that kind of thing. Got a broke down monkey, sure does peeping high. Broke down monkey, sure does peeping high. Jumps up on my back and it takes me for a ride. Careful now, someone may see him. Really know he's hanging on. Catch him by the tail and lead him. If he hollers, let him go. Monkey see, do you see? Monkey do. Monkey see, do you see? Monkey do. Is it he you see, or is it you? Gripping arms tear at your shoulders. Lose your grip and you might be torn between the monkey and his madness. Is there really anything at all? Is there really anything at all? Got a broke down monkey, sure does peeping high. And the point I was trying to make is that, you know, we can put thought into our songs. We can have imagery. We can have some abstract things, and it is still the blues. I mean, that's how you know our minds
Sounds good
work.
to me.
If they, you know.
Well, I think all we've got time for is to say goodbye, and we're going to go out on a little jug band stomp that
Great.
George
All
cooked
right.
up here. So, let's do it, George.
All right.
Bye, folks. I think we're done, are we, Jay?
I know that you've been fooling around on me right from the very start. Honey, keep the ring, but baby, give me back my heart. And when you're tired of fooling around with a 2 or 3, baby, come on home.